Welcome everyone to the first panel discussion. So we have very esteemed members today with us. Rahul Nigam sir, he's been working in corporates. Now he set up his own venture and he's become an angel investor. So sir will bring insights from an angel investor how these things can impact us. Here Rajesh sir also from O2 Ventures, and sir also has been helping and guiding angels. So from his experience, and then we have Dhianu sir. And I think his name needs no introduction. Sir has been GP at Agility Ventures and Fluid Ventures also, and he has been instrumental in kind of raising the funds that are there. Yeah. So we just, I think Sarika ma'am is also coming in that. So we start the discussion and then she will also pitch in with her views. So I think all the investors always feel that, whenever there's a company, it should become unicorn, right? So this is question on all investors' mind that, how will the company grow? How will it scale? But the first question is that how do you identify such a company? So that is why we have today's panel discussion. So I think first question, maybe I will ask maybe Dhianu sir. So I'm putting you in a spot, sir. But maybe sir, I will ask you that how important, sir, is the market size? Because there are many sometimes founders who start in a particular niche area. Some people also say we start in niche area, we build categories around it. But then to become a unicorn, you also need to have sufficient scale. So, sir, I would like to have your views on the market size, sir, and how important it is in assessing whether a startup can grow up to unicorn level.
I think beginning शुरू से ही मैं हमेशा बोलता यूनिकॉर्न 100 crore which is billion. Yes, billion can be rupee, billion can be dollar. तो 100 करोड़ रुपए का टर्नओवर अगर आप अचीव करते हैं तो एक बहुत बड़ा स्टार्टअप बनता है. Yes. And 100 crore रुपए का टर्नओवर that is a billion rupee turnover. From there the journey to a $1 billion is at least visible. And if you can say that anybody can spot a unicorn in the beginning, I don't think anybody, whoever is doing it, must be either very lucky or I don't know the formula is right. I have seen a unicorn in my portfolio and then failed. I never thought that it will become a unicorn. My founders never thought that they can touch a 100 crore valuation, not revenue. They touched a 500 crore revenue. Many of my startups touch a 100 crore revenue or valuations almost. 20-25% of my startups touched 100 crore valuation. 25-30% of my startups. And at least 15% of all the startups we invested in touched a 100 crore revenue, which is very big. Sizable. Very sizable. Market India का इतना बड़ा है that whatever you are doing, for example, let's say example से अगर मैं बोलूँ तो अगर आप कोई भी एक निश में करना चाह रहे हैं, किसी भी एक निश में which you have identified, that niche market अगर आप उसका 5%, 7%, 100 crore revenue का बना सकते हैं, which is like 2000 crore का market कह लीजिए, तो a big startup is made, बड़ा startup, क्योंकि let's say आपने एक startup बनाया which is I'm calling it Power Jobs now. That's my startup. I invested in it in 2018. Gummies का market ही नहीं. तो इंडिया में gummies fail ही हुआ था. Any big company that tried gummies they failed. I was the first one to spot. Founder सोच रहा था कि gummies में कुछ करूँ, कुछ देखें. But उस gummies में एक और niche में गया वो, which was hairs and nails. फिर nails को भूल के क्योंकि दोनों का same होता है formula to increase your hair and nail growth and health. तो उसने सिर्फ हेयर पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट किया तो 50% पॉपुलेशन का प्रॉब्लम है. मार्केट तो बहुत बड़ा है डेफिनेटली एंड ग्रोइंग, नॉट मेल विमेन एज वेल. उसकी मदर को बहुत पसंद एंड इट बिकेम अ काइंड ऑफ अ 80-90 करोड़ टर्नओवर कंपनी. अब उसने अपनी फैक्ट्री लगा लिया इंडिया में मानेसर में. द कंपनी इज being treated as, quite a big company when it comes to competitors. They always name it Wipro, Marico, TSG. Everybody is invested in that company now in 5-6 years. And I think बोलते गमीज को निश पकड़ा. गमीज में भी उसने कोई विटामिन या मल्टीविटामिन या किड्स कमी नहीं बनाया. उसने सिर्फ एक हेयर एंड which is again niche and made a 100 crore brand out of it, which is a unicorn. But when it comes to a real unicorn like a unicorn, I'm sure that you have seen ATM, which I was shouting when it was at 400. My family, my friends, my team, buy it. It's a wonderful company. I don't know why it is not understood by people now, but it was valued at one point at like 2-3 lakh crore rupees, which was probably a sign of maybe SBI, I suppose, in 2020. So 2020 में SBI काफी गिर गया था और 2021 में ये SBI की वैल्यूएशन के बराबर है 2-3 लाख करोड़ की वैल्यूएशन. And you are not buying at 32,000 crore valuation. It came down from 3 lakh to 18,000. So unicorn, and I'm still very interested in the company. Great company. Unicorn is a valuation which can be achieved only with the revenue and the solution you are providing, and nothing else. There is no other form.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, but मेरा एक छोटा सा question on that thought. It's like जब power gum is initially आया था बहुत छोटे level पे होगा, maybe 10, 15, 30 लाख पे होगा, जो एक बहुत critical चीज होती है. उससे समझ नहीं आता है कि आप बोल रहे हैं niche पे भी वो operate कर रहा है, right? तो उस टाइम पे सर मतलब ऐसा आपको क्या लग रहा था कि ये हो सकता है, मतलब क्योंकि वो बहुत important है feeling, क्योंकि आज हम अगर वो समझे तो हम आगे जा सकते हैं.
Agree. तो basically I mean हम लोग सिर्फ सुनते हैं, उसको एक्सपेरिमेंट नहीं करते. जब उसने शुरू किया था गमी से, हेयर एंड नेल गमी से, तो ही वाज आल्सो कंफ्यूज. बहुत सारे लोग बोलते थे ये भी डालो. मल्टीविटामिन वाज द फर्स्ट यूज केस. लेकिन वी वर कॉन्सेंट्रेटिंग ऑन अ प्रॉब्लम जिसके लिए लोग पैसा भी दे रहे. गमीज 1200 रुपए में बेच रहे थे डब्बा फॉर 2 months, जिसके लिए लोग पैसा भी दे रहे और उनको फर्क भी पड़े. तो उसका रिजल्ट आना चाहिए, बाद का ग्रोथ मतलब ऑल तो रुकना ही चाहिए. एंड 3-4 महीने के बाद उसके बालों के आपके फर्क पड़ना चाहिए. सो आई एक्सपेरिमेंटेड ऑन माई सेल्फ, देन ऑन माई फैमिली. इन्वेस्टमेंट कर चुका था एंड देन वी वर रेकमेंडिंग बिकॉज इट वाज लाइक वर्ड ऑफ माउथ व्हिच वाज सेलिंग मोर. तो हम लोग खुद बताते थे यार ये कभी ट्राई करो. एंड whoever I have given, I can show you messages they have used. Same thing with the company I was now failed. Global Canning, the service only was concentrated on 2 things. One, the time कि हम 4 घंटे में आपकी गाड़ी सर्विस करके वापस कर देंगे. And second was assurity of what we are saying we will do that. तो उससे कारण became very big. So आपको आपका niche, because most of the time all my startups I found niche only. I founded myself company which was into niche only. तो आपको वो देखना है कि word of mouth से और लोगों को उसका solution जो आप provide करो वो genuine solution है, सिर्फ बातें नहीं. मतलब गमीज खिला रहे हो उसका रिजल्ट नहीं आ रहा तो nobody is gonna buy it. मतलब यार word of mouth नहीं.
Thank you, sir. So I'll ask Rajesh, sir, with your opinion, the same question. Sir, like in your experience, what are things that you assess, while assessing, whether in terms of market size, and especially, sir, I would like to you to take this question from AI perspective, because sir has taken from D2C perspective some examples. From a tech perspective, AI perspective, this question comes in mind of our investor. कि कैसे identify करें which is going to be a tech unicorn. So that question will be for you, sir.
The subject is something which all Indian investors are given. कोई मैजिक फॉर्मूला मैजिक सॉल्व मिल जाए कि तुमने को ये इन्वेस्ट करे और यूनिकॉर्न करें. अर्ली स्टेज इन्वेस्टर्स बेसिक डिवाइसेस जिसमें इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं नेक्स्ट यूनिकॉर्न. And that's a fact when we invest in illuminated. So assessment of market size is something which is going to be a trendsetter. Is very difficult because at the inception the size will be very very small, but as it creates its own category, the size will become very large. Any Excel model is going to be non-productive in that sense. Because you will not be able to build in the size. You are going to be wrong. Either on the assessing the size larger than it will be, or your prediction will be lower than actually it is going to be. And the only question is whether when we invest, we try and find the answer to the question whether A, the founders which has thought about it will have at least a million of a customer. If any product which has got a million of customer, will likely to have more than a billion of a revenue or a valuation. So billion to be INR or any other currency, but it's a very important that can there be a billion of a customer first. Until unless it's coming from a B2B background. When it's a B2B background, that billion number may not be true in terms of a customer, but in case of, in that sense, we are looking to there be a million of a huge person.
In that case, would order book be a good size of that? Like suppose I'm saying I'm in this order book, especially in B2B, because B2C to like in B2B with customers also very limited. So if I have a big order book, would that be a testimony कि at least इतने orders आ रहे हैं, interaction हो रहा है, maybe we get more orders.
Being an earlier stage investor, that's a difficult for me to say. But that's the job. But most of VC will be investing only when company is Indian billion valuation company. So they will have traction. For this early stage, a letter of intent is good. Because that gives there is some customer who is believing and multiple letter of intent that gives a belief that there will be more and more customer coming in. So that's where we look at. And early stage is very difficult to pinpoint whether this will become an only passage of time will get that it will become an. And proof is that whatever he has been building, he is improving it. The company is getting repeat businesses and has new customers.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I'm asked a question to Rahul sir. And sir, how when you are evaluating startups as an angel investor, because you want to bring all perspectives on the table. Sir, what do you think that only एक company आगे तक जाएगा? It will like a what are the thoughts that come to your mind when you think about them?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I will say is there's no magic solve. You can't identify a unicorn at the first stage. And all the more for an early stage investor or an angel investor, I think even that thought is not. So for me, or an early stage investor or an angel investor, I'm not thinking that I'll be investing in a unicorn or this will become a unicorn. So then essentially what we look for is and market size thing that you asked for, as said, Indian market itself is so big and it's a consumer market and it's a growing. So these are all numbers. The biggest problem is for an early stage investor and an angel investor, we can't have metrics, we can't have any numbers. A lot of times we invest in a company with zero revenue or probably a 1 crore revenue. So at that time, you can't have a order book or number of customers and all that. So the clear thing is, one is obviously the founder's vision. Second, I think a very good learning if people were there on the two businesses that we heard of. And for a long time, they were bootstrapped. Is you have to create a market and create a market. So maybe, for the first year, there will not be any market. The order book or the revenue will be very less. But what is the founder's vision? How you are creating the market? And are you ready for a long-term play? Yes. It's very important from an angel investor perspective. So it's basically a more softer form. A discussion with the founder, his vision, his plan, and how we arrived at that opportunity. I think something that Saket touched upon, which is piloting. He was lucky to pilot his concept during, while being in job. And I think that's a great thing if you can pilot at a small scale.
If you're the CEO of a small business, then you can it out there.
So I think that is very important. Numbers, more than the numbers, because the numbers in the Indian market can all be market size, I can show same thing as 1,000 crore or a 500,000 crore market. And then if I start applying the segmentation,
the targeting and the positioning, that market can come down to 50 crores. That is anybody's guess. So I think it is basically very teaching about what need are you serving. That is the fundamental question. Or are you creating a need? In these cases, they created a need. They created a category. There was zero category. So in a way, there was zero market size. Category. Yeah. In refit also, they piloted their category. And second thing is, I think, I don't know about others, but as Dhianu mentioned, no one can predict unicorn. For an early stage investor, it's not important also to become a unicorn. As long as you are getting a 10x, 15x, 20x, 30x, and you have to understand that different portfolio companies have different engagement stories. Not necessarily. I think the fixation with the word unicorn is also probably oversight. So, which is basically the return, the investment, and the profitability. Sustainability and the scalability of the business is more important than the fixation with the word unicorn. That's fine.
So, I asked this question to Sarika. I'll ask we are trending towards that. I think some thoughts have come, and you have been actually the managing partner of the fund. So, what would I suppose would typically happen is that many proposals already verified, but it would be coming to you. It will last decision maker who says that okay, go hit the funds, right? So when that kind of happens, I think one of the most important factors, according to me, I could also re-verify from your side also, is about the founder. So, how critical you think it's a founder, his vision, how important it is when you want to assess whether this is going to be our next investment, because of course it's lot of money that is riding behind that one decision which you say yes. So I just want to check, on the founder, what characteristics you think, what vision you look at when you look at the founder while evaluating anything.
Most important thing when we make a decision is I would say 50% of the decision is in fact, currently we are evaluating two companies and exactly the same product, same space, same market. Now the decision is based only on the product. That said, I would say that I come from a space which is been an angel platform. Now we have the second fund. It's been in the market for 18 years. And this is one consistent thing that we only invest in founders. We see will be mentorable about new ideas and themselves have a vision to get it. So it is their idea that we help. But the idea has to be there and they have to have the execution capability to be able to get it. And how we judge that is again pattern here is that if there's no just that you have to keep engaging with them, find out what their beliefs are, where their vision is, what they want to build. This is coming from a place of just profitability, it is coming from a place that they actually want to build. So those things are such an important that you have to figure it out as you go along. But so we very proudly say that we have backed founders, A-level founders who have made fantastic companies who could be ideas. On the other hand, a B-level founder with traction in AI.
Correct.
It has to be.
Correct. Thank you. So I'll ask Dhianu sir on this. Sir, actually, when we assess the founder and any major investment necessity, there are different criteria. Like, so I ask a specific question on experience versus non-experience. So there are some founders, like we have today's Saket is there. He came from experience 10, 15 years. Like I came from 10, 15 years of industry background. I think it helps. But there are younger founders. We also need fresh young blood. So when between those two, how important do you think is the importance of experience, working in corporates, and maybe sometimes it's also not to have a bias because sometimes we get into a bias because we work 10 years, 15 years. So that also becomes a limiting factor. So how do you assess the experience part? Do you think experience should be there, or do you think it's technical and okay, even if they have a vision, let's back them, or it should be a mix? What do you think?
Greatly answering. Yeah. So my first 40 companies, I think I never looked at case studies. Done about 85 investments so far. First 40 individual as I enjoyed till about 2020. No experience before. Rather, there was a full stop after 40. So if you are over 50, not investing. One common trait, what I now see, because I have of late started investing in both founders. There are two sets of investors currently in India. Post angel and post series A, pre-series A. Two sets of investors. One is which is the large VC, taking you to Series B, Series C, Series D. And second is the IPO route. In both cases, the founder coachability is most important. If I look at a founder, first thing I look at the founder, no matter experience now, because I have now been investing into much experienced founder, 50-year-old, 48-year-olds, 55-year-olds. Look at it, are they coachable? If they are not coachable, not investing. Experience helps a lot when it comes to second set of investors, which is IPO. Because in there, the paperwork is, the compliance is, the act, on time delivery of not just your targets, but of your compliance and paperwork is the most important. And experience only counts in that, because the younger lot do avoid a lot of things. They don't do compliances and all that. So second set of investors, where I'm looking at my exits for IPO or something, then definitely experience is the first thing I will look at. Where I'm looking at AI, deep tech, all that, I'm okay with non-experience, because AI is just about 5-6 years old. I started understanding AI when ChatGPT was launched. I never understood AI. I will not shy away from that, because that was rocket science for me, and I think most of us are using it. So experience, yes. Non-experience, yes. But coachability is the one thing I look at the factors. Both of them.
Correct. Thank you, sir. So, Rajesh sir, question to you on this, covering one more aspect. I think there are two aspects to this. Many of the startups we are single founders versus multiple founders. So, does that influence your decision? Second aspect is in terms of the balance of the team, right? What kind of balance you see in the founders? Should they have complementary skills? Suppose both are in sales, or maybe if it is a tech startup, you think at least one person should be a techie, one person from sales. So, what are those considerations that you look at while seeing the balance in the founding team? It is there.
So, out of our 24 portfolio company, only 2 companies are solo founders. So that gives our thought process. We are not strictly against a solo founder, but solo founders is a difficult issue. Because a business requires multiple dimensions to be taken care of. So I think ideally look at the founders. I mean, there should be 3 founders, not more than 3, because that's too many crowd.
Too many books, but
yeah. So 3 is an ideal number for us. We are very happy that 3 founders are there. And essentially, these 3 founders will be knowing themselves for quite some time. And as we grow the company, they will get the required skills from the experience. So most of these founders will not be specialized. I mean, very rare I have seen that one finance guy, one tech guy, one marketing guy coming together and starting a business. I mean, it's not going to happen very easily. I mean, it will not happen because, I mean, there should be a common dot. What is the common dot between these 3 things? That common dot is very, very rare. If that happens, happy to that.
Yes.
Because these are complementary skills and there is a common dot. I mean, any idea where the 3 founders have three different complementary skills: building the product, finance, and the marketing. I think happy to that thing, but it's not happening. Solo founders are difficult to work with. It is because the founders are in need of advice, listening us many times. Until unless you debate internally how you are going to test or network or at least what idea you should take forward. I mean, you will need to pivot at many times. How do you pivot? I mean, who is going to tell you? Investors, more likely or not, is going to not telling you that you move this direction. It has to come from the founders. And that's where solo founders is a difficult case. Multiple founders, but having five founders, I think very difficult responsibility because the pace in decision making will get slowed down. Two and three, I think three is ideal number because in case of dispute, on a not disputed with sense of a dispute of what we take, but dispute on a taking decision what path we to take. The two will decide what path to take. And whether the path is right or not, when the time will take. So we'll still ideally look at some companies where there are three founders.
My question to Rahul Nigam sir will be on this founder thing. Okay, I think most businesses where we are seeing them fail is when the founders actually there was some conflict in the founders. So the founder chemistry, that's very important to have. As like sir was saying, I remember one startup came to me and they had a common pain point. So it was a very deeply perceiving personal pain point, and that was something that was binding them. So, but sir, just want to check from your side also, like, how do you assess founder chemistry? It's easier said, ठीक है chemistry, but how do you assess that? And so that, they will be together in the thick and thin, because otherwise it becomes problem. Because in the good times, it's always, everybody sticks, but when they get really, that time, all this, your chemistry and all becomes very important.
So I think absolutely. And when it was talking about two or three founders, that was the point that I wanted to have. That it is very important the relationship between those two and three founders. So while I agree with the point of view that ideally we would prefer more than one, not a solo founder. And why it is ideal is because of the reason that Dhianu talked about in terms of different perspectives come. Solo, and I'll just bring the perspective because I have been building new businesses while being in the industry. So new businesses for the corporates. And there, it is very important that new business team or new founding team is just looking at different perspectives, counter points. What happens is solo founders often think that there is a unidirectional way of thinking. Now that might have come from a past experience, success or failure. Obviously, that is important. But there is always a second side of the coin. So, and when you talk about the interrelationship or the softer side between the two or three founders, it is very important the listening skills that all my panelists talk about and coachability. So again, I'll just talk about from the corporate perspective when building new businesses, and there are some. We always talk about skill and build metrics. So I think when we are looking at new businesses, skill is far more important than the skill. Because the skill can be acquired by having experts in the team. It rarely happens that, as Rakesh talked about, that there's a marketing guy, finance guy, and tech guy coming together. So specialized skills can be, hired or experts can be brought on board. But it is the listening and the build issue which is very, very important. So when we are talking to the founders, and so I always prefer to meet, if there are two founders, both the founders together. And when you say that, assessing the chemistry, I think when three people are talking, and even if one might be a prospective investor, in half an hour or 1 hour of discussion, you can assess the chemistry. You know, how much is there one person who is dominating? Even if that person is dominating, how much open to other perspective or new ideas or the other founders view that person is. So I think the best way of assessing that is a common or a joint. You know, when we are talking about 2 or 3 founders, I don't think it makes sense to being separate founders. You know, both the founders separate.
Then you can't see.
Yeah. And again, as I said, you know, when you're talking of early investing, angel investing, there are no metrics that you can go by. There are no numbers that you can.
Yeah.
So that is that. And I think you know that in all the investments that I have made, I have had that clause of exclusivity and commitment of both the founders.
Yes.
So I think from that perspective, it is very, very important that long-term commitment of the two partners and the exclusivity of the partners to that. Because sometimes what happens, you know, someone might have 10 ideas and one of the partners might say, okay, you know, I want to pursue 5 things parallelly, whereas the other founder is just focused on one idea and giving full time. So I think that is also very, very important. The long-term commitment of both the founders to a particular idea is very important.
So sometimes, you know, when I have a common discussion with the founders, I also see how the chemistry evolves. So sometimes, you know, when 2 founders are there, one person will speak, the other will not speak. Or if suppose the other speaks on front of him, how does he react? That is also fine. You know, maybe if that is a chemistry is there, but if you know both of them, you know, then don't sync up, then that is where the problem is there. Okay? So those are the things that when you are talking to them, when they both are talking together, all these things, you know, come in the open. You understand how these things are panning out. So I think that's a very good point. Maybe, you know, now I think we are running short of time. Maybe we'll ask 2 quick questions, and maybe Dhianu sir, you can. I just wanted to ask after this Baiju thing that has been there. I think one thing that is now inhibiting the formation of unicorns is us only as founders, because like, you know, governance issues that are there. Like, you know, we are pulling ourselves down, and of course, there's a lot of investor money also riding. So, sir, I think how to inculcate this governance? You mentioned there are many youngsters. You mentioned they also don't understand much of the things. But of course, you know, we have to follow rules. Not knowing the law is not an excuse. You have to know the law. So, what would be your view on this?
Integrity is one thing which founders keep it intact. That's one thing. Another thing which I look at the founder. I don't know about Baiju, what they did wrong in terms of with this whatever is coming in the news. But yeah, the valuation of the company is one thing I always talked about. Even the founders who know me since 2015, I always was very, very particular about the valuation of the company when they are raising after they have taken money from me. And if the founders you talk to who I have given money in the 15, 16, 17, 18, even now, they will say that sir will give, you know, give you a lesson that listen, valuation के ऊपर मत ध्यान दो, growth के ऊपर ध्यान दो, पैसा कितना चाहिए, कहाँ use करोगे उसके ऊपर ध्यान दो. Founders what should make sure is they are not, you know, following the US model. First thing. Second thing, VC money does come with a lot of pressure. VC do not mind burning money. I personally know many VCs who have had returns to the tune of 1,000 times. 100 times are very easily available. I personally have generated 100 times return in companies. You don't generate it for like 5 crore, but you generate it for 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, and 1,000 times as well. Then the VCs, you know, they need money because they see that, you know, the last founder did this and the valuation rose to XYZ. But in India, if you see lately, since 2022, when we come back to 2021, I used to see say these things in 2016, 17 that by 2025 you will have 100 unicorns. And people used to say, sir, अभी एक दो ही है, आप कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं सोच रहे कि 25 तक 100 हो जाएंगे. And I was shocked to see 100 unicorns in 2021 alone. I mean, it was like shock to me. And if you see the videos, if there are any, I used to say that, it's like America party like 1999, where you register a name and get millions of dollars. One founder finding six companies, getting millions of dollars in all six companies. Pet.com, animal.com was the classic case, including PayPal, when they were valued at $500 million just because the news was in the newspaper and they said 500 million, 100 million raise and VC gave them money. This is what in their book as well, if you read. So VCs come with a lot of pressure. If you're ready to by that pressure and take that pressure, then only you should be prepared for taking that money from business. First thing. Second thing, with that pressure, do not fudge or make numbers up because that cannot be hidden. Any VC which will give money now is okay, but any money which VC will give money post this money will do a due diligence through Big Four only. Or maybe some other large companies from India, क्योंकि उन्होंने एक एक चीज 40-40 रुपए के लिए कॉल जाने वाले 40 रुपए आपकी वाइफ के अकाउंट में क्यों चले प्रैक्टिकली 400-500 रुपए एक ही अकाउंट में 4-5 बार गए तो डेफिनेटली कॉल जाने वाले हुआ नहीं वाई आर रिसीविंग 200 रुपीज एवरी मंथ सो वो करते हैं इस तरह से एंड देयर analyzation is now through AI only. पहले तो नहीं था but in 17-18 I had gone through VCs. एक एक चीज को वो देखते थे. That's why most of the founders do not get money. VCs बताते भी नहीं है कि हमने ये चीज देखी आपने ये 50 लाख रुपए अपने पर्सनल यूज के लिए यूज कर लिया 1 करोड़ तो टोटल रेज किया था. We are not giving you. They don't tell you that. They just say that you are not ready for it. Software बना. So make sure that whatever you are doing. You put it like ये सर मेरा ये EMI है 2 लाख रुपए महीने का लूंगा ही लूंगा उस वाले इन्वेस्टर को भी बताओ उससे पैसा ले लो एंजल से या एंजल फंड से और VC को भी बताओ पहले कि सर ये मैं इसलिए लेता हूँ ये चीज है उसकी कारण डोंट फर्स्ट योर द मिनट यू डू दैट you have slimmed your chances of getting money even after you raise series D or series F whatever so make sure that integrity in that and do not do anything of this sort it is very visible very obvious and companies are failing because of this. Only because of this.
Thank you, sir. So, Sarika, one question. I think we take different questions. So, another question is growth versus profitability. So, like now, funding as is not as 2021. I would like to say in a nice way. But the thing is then, do we go for growth? Do we go for profitability? If you go for profitability, there is a burn. But then my next round I don't know when I will raise. So how do we handle this conundrum of profitability versus growth? Because if we have to become unicorn, we have to grow also to that level. Revenue also should be there because it's going to be multiple of. In some times, at least it's going to be multiple of revenue. So revenue to बढ़ना ही है. So how to manage this conundrum of profitability versus growth?
As a VC, I would say it is a different question. When we look at a company, it is important that growth happens. It also depends on which stage you're in. Supposing you're in a VC, ready to say, after customer acquisition, there is no other way around. There is marketing, there are a lot of other things that you need to do. But if supposing it is a B2B, then you need to figure out why you're working for money. If it's spending on tech, or you're spending on something else, what is it that you're trying, what are you, where are you spending that money, which is burning? It is, I don't think there's a straight answer to it. It is a question that has to be answered company specific. But to become a unicorn, to become a large, profitable company, initially, yes, you would need to spend money to reach a certain stage where, at that stage, then you can start focusing on profitability. Initially, there will be a lot. And how that happens, when that happens, again, company. And as Rajesh was saying, we see pressure dating, which is true. It is a fact. We will monitor how you're doing, what you're doing, and where we can help. अगर आप किसी कंपनी में ज़्यादा burn हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है? What can we do better? Can we connect you to somebody will help you to better? Or maybe as if the promoters don't have that capability, if we get somebody external on your board, we will help you with it. So while the pressure, there is also a lot of support that comes from entire ecosystem, be it angel network, be it the VC. So they ensure that once we have invested in the company, then it is our company as well. So we try and ensure that we give you help throughout. And then that's where I think collective minds will decide whether it is something that we burn now or you focus on profit. So that is something that comes with it.
Yeah, I think it's important that founders also understand that we are all part of same team. We are all on one side, investors and us. Okay, so it's not that ki investors are only yes and हम लोग सब एक ही direction में, right? All of us want to grow, right? So how can we grow together in a sustainable way? Because eventually, if we are not doing in sustainable way, there are going to be problems, right? Maybe Rajesh, the one question for you is that, sir, do you think that like if a company can grow outside India with global expansion, that can be a criteria for unicorn, or only within India we say it's very big market, क्यों जाना बाहर, बहुत India में ही है demand. So what do you think that domestic versus global?
So most of the companies where we invest typically will have global demand for that, but not in the initial, because being an earlier stage, I mean, first build the India or domestic market, then you try and go outside India, other country. India is a large market, but if the product doesn't have a global possibility, we will be little shy of investing in, because a product cannot have only India. The product will definitely have a global demand. Very rare, I think, would be some company which only solving a problem. The solution will be for bit of thinking will be required for different geographies, but it will have a global demand. And typically, we look at the products or company which can will be a global company at some point of time. So for us, a global acceptability of the solution they are developing is very, very important.
Correct. So maybe last question of this, because we are running short of time. Sir, is on the disruption aspect. Everybody says that unicorn there is going to be disruption. No Uber came. Now I can order my cab. Zomato came. I can order my food in 2 minutes. So is this only disruption, or can even common play business models also crack unicorn?
Again, I think disruption within the existing categories, how you do it differently. Disruption necessarily doesn't mean some, just wildly new idea kind of thing. Again, lot of these terms are very wrongly used or wrongly understood. So, disruption can be just in the common way, but in terms of your execution.
Yes.
So I am again, I am a stickler for process and execution, because see, ideas there are so many. Sarika talks about they are evaluating two companies exactly same idea. So I think disruption can be, you have to understand that disruption is not just in the idea or a wide thinking, but it's also in the process and the execution. And I think as a final thought, I would also like to just capture two things that, as the investing landscape is kind of evolving, the financial aspect and the governance and the regular number keeping is very, very important.
Yes.
So you have to have that transparency.
Governance.
And the second thing, or the most important thing that I would kind of advise all the investors, all the founders is that you have, if you're there for, because all those things happen when you are trying to make quick bucks. Because, again, as Dan talked about, the entire US model, the valuation chasing, the valuation gain, and then that leads to some financial discrepancies and all that. It is why? Why is that happening? Because, we are in, some of the founders start with the idea that I want to, get to an X valuation, 5 years, and then I want to exit the business. Personally, at least my view is that I think probably that's not something that I would put my money into. All the founders have to be ready for the long term, and you have to know that it is a difficult way of building business. And it's not a quick buck that you're looking at, or I dilute a lot of funds, upfront and use some of those funds for personal purposes. I think that will, and that will become more and more difficult. That will be called out even now. as you talked about the Byju's case, even a big mega unicorn has kind of failed because of that. So I think that's a big word of warning.
Yeah. So I think with this, we'll wind up today's session. I think a very good kind of discussion. I would like to now thank all the panelists. They're very gracious today coming and braving all without traffic and coming and meeting us.